guys, my name's Lewis and welcome to Analysis of Thrones. This is where we're going to analyze the battle, histories, events, and prophecies of George R.R. Martin's book series, A Song of Ice and Fire, in HBO's Game of Thrones. Before we start, I just want to let you know that we will be discussing events that could be spoilers for someone who's not caught up with the book or show series. For today's show, we will be analyzing one of the major battles in the War of the Five Kings, the Battle of the Whispering Woods.
My lady.
By the time they knew what was happening, it had already happened.
This clip from Game of Thrones Season 1 is the closest we get to the Battle of the Whispering Woods in the show series. The show gives us some basic information and the outcome of the battle, but not much else. Show-only watchers know that it was a battle between the forces of Robb Stark and Jaime Lannister, in which Robb was victorious and Jaime was captured. But other than that, the show viewers are left wondering what the battle was actually like. Luckily, the first book in A Song of Ice and Fire goes into much greater detail about the battle. This video is going to analyze the battle using the information we get from the book and show. To start off this analysis, we're going to look into the events that lead up to this critical engagement. The Battle of the Whispering Woods is an engagement that takes place in the Riverlands, which at the time is a war-torn area. Following the capture of Tyrion Lannister by Catelyn Stark, Lord Tywin Lannister prepares his army for an eventual attack on the Riverlands, which is Catelyn's birthplace and an area that is still ruled by her family. Around the same time Tywin begins marshalling his forces, Jaime Lannister leaves King's Landing to meet up with his father. Once Jaime meets up with his father's forces, he helps lead the invasion of the Riverlands. The first battles, the Battle of the Golden Tooth and the battle under the walls of Riverrun, were overwhelming victories for the Lannisters. They managed to both capture Edmure Tully and scatter the majority of the Riverlands forces. Around the same time in King's Landing, Robert Baratheon died, and Eddard Stark is then captured and imprisoned for attempting to reveal the truth of Joffrey's true parentage. Because of this, Robb Stark rallies his bannermen and begins marching south to free his father.
Call the banners.
All of them, my lord.
They've all sworn to defend my father, have they not?
They have.
Now we see what the words are worth.
Tywin responds to this by dividing his forces into two. One army will be led by Jaime Lannister and is tasked to lay siege to Riverrun and bring the Riverlands to heel. Tywin takes the rest of the Lannister force and heads to the Green Fork. Tywin believes that Lord Walder Frey will remain neutral in the war and not allow Robb Stark to enter the Riverlands via his crossing at the Twins. This means that the only other viable option for Robb to enter the Riverlands would be the crossing down the King's Road, which, by putting part of the Lannister army at the crossing in the east, Tywin has all but assured the victory of the Riverlands and dictated the conditions for the battle to come with Robb Stark. These plans come undone when Catelyn negotiates the crossing at the Twins by agreeing to have Robb marry one of Lord Walder's daughters. Robb strategically splits up his army at this point. The foot soldiers and 500 of the cavalry head down the Green Fork, led by Roose Bolton. They are tasked to engage Tywin and at the least keep him occupied so he does not have the chance to assist Jaime's army. Robb takes the rest of the cavalry, crosses the Twins, and begins a sprint towards Riverrun. He uses a force that is mostly on horseback so he can get to Riverrun quickly and flank Jaime Lannister's army that are now laying siege to Riverrun. Along the way, Robb meets up with several people that join forces with the Young Wolf. One major person who joins forces with him is Brendan the Blackfist Tully, who is brother to Lord Hoster Tully and is uncle to Catelyn Stark. Robb also adds troops with Jason Mallister and a large number of man-at-arms, hedge knights, and soldiers who have been displaced after the Lannister invasion. Brendan gives Robb information about Jaime's ongoing siege of Riverrun. Robb learned that Jaime commands a force that is almost 3 times larger than that of Robb's command. While the news looks grim for Robb's plans to attack Jaime and his larger force, Brendan offers Robb a plan of action. He explains that Jaime's weakness is his restlessness and impatience. While Jaime's men are currently building siege towers so that they can storm the castle, Jaime has been roaming off with a smaller force to attack pockets of resistance and storm small holdfasts. Robb decides that he will lure Jaime into a trap on a battlefield of his choosing. This location is part of a forest that will be later known as the Whispering Woods. Now we're going to look into the geography of Robb's chosen battlefield. The battlefield chosen by Robb for the ambush is a forested area in the Riverlands, about halfway in between Riverrun and Oldstones, and east of Fairmarket. The location has a stream running in the north-south direction. The stream is the low part of the area, and on both sides of the stream bed, the ground slopes up. The higher parts of the hills are more densely forested, and as you get down the hill more and close to the stream, there are less trees. Towards the north side of the battlefield, the stream makes a sharp curve that is described by Catelyn as an elbow. Now let's look at the number of troops each side had going into the battle and some significant combatants. The Westerlands force had about 1,500 to 2,250 cavalry, made up of knights, sworn swords, and free riders. Some significant people among them were Jaime Lannister, Willem Lannister, Tion Frey, Lord Gawain Westerling, Lord Quentyn Bannerfort, Lord Garth Greenfield, Lord Estrin, and Titus Brax. The Northern/Riverlands force numbered about 6,000 men. Most of this force was cavalry, with a smaller amount of them being archers. Some significant people in the Northern/Riverlands force was Robb Stark, Mage Mormont, who's the Lord of Bear Island, Lord Rickard Karstark, Great John Umber, Galbert Glover, Darren Hornwood, who is the heir to House Hornwood, Theon Greyjoy, Small John Umber, Dacy Mormont, Torrin Karstark, Eddard Karstark, Brendan Tully, and Jason Mallister. We will now be looking into the tactics each side had going into the battle. In a strategic point of view, the Starks had all the advantage going into the battle. This is because they had concealed from the Lannisters the fact that Robb and part of his army had crossed at the Twins. In Jaime Lannister's mind, the only way Robb could get to him was from the crossing in the east, which was guarded by his father Tywin. Maintaining the secret from the Lannisters was pivotal to Robb Stark's plan. He tasked Brendan Blackfish and his men to take out any of the Lannister outriders, any of their scouts, and their ravens. This would ensure the element of surprise remained on their side. The first step in Robb's plan going into the battle was to lure Jaime Lannister away from the bulk of his force. He did this by giving Brendan Blackfish about 300 men and had them raid the Lannister encampment. He had them do this while carrying Tully banners, so that Jaime believed it was a force from the Riverlands. The Blackfish ensured Robb that Jaime was restless and would pursue him and his men. The Blackfish was tasked to lead the pursuing force into Robb's chosen battlefield. This tactic is called a Feigned Retreat. This is where a force fakes a retreat and leads the pursuing force into an unfavorable position, or an ambush. This tactic has been seen a number of times in real-world history. An example of this can be seen used by the Mongols during the Battle of Kalka River. This was a battle in the 11th century between the Mongol army and the Rus army. The Rus army outnumbered the Mongols about 80,000 to 20,000. The Mongols decided to use a feigned retreat tactic where 1,000 men in the rearguard faked a retreat. The Rus army pursued the Mongol rearguard for 9 days. In those 9 days of hot pursuit, the Rus army became spread out and exhausted. On the 9th day, they were led straight into the remaining 19,000-man Mongol army. The Rus were extremely fatigued from the chase and were defeated handily by the Mongol force. A similar use of feigned retreat is used by Robb Stark. Brendan Tully raids would lure Jaime Lannister out and lead them into the Whispering Woods. In the woods, Robb divided his force and put them on top of both ridges to the east and west of the stream, and to the north. The forces on top of both ridges were concealed by the dense forest. While the book does not explicitly say this, it can be thought that the force towards the north would be hiding where the stream took a curve, to conceal their location until it was too late for Jaime. Robb also had his archers climb in the trees along the opening of the stream bed. The plan was that once Brynden Tully's force made their way along the opening, the war horns would sound and the archers would open fire. De Re Militari is a text written by Renatus in the 4th century. This book gave insight into everything about battle tactics and is often referred to as the Bible of warfare throughout the Middle Ages. The text talks about use of archers in a battle. It says that archers are to be used at the start of a battle to break open the formations. This same idea was implemented by Robb Stark. The war horns were sound when the ambush was to begin, and the archers opened fire. This would hopefully cause the Lannisters to break formation. From there, the cavalry could charge on all sides and tear through the open formation. Robb spread the different lords out throughout the battlefield to help lead the attack. On the western ridge is where Robb himself would be. Catelyn convinced Robb to gather a group of important people that would help guard him during the battle. In this guard we find Theon Greyjoy, Daeron Hornwood, Torrhen Karstark, Eddard Karstark, and the small Jon Umber. Of course, Grey Wind was located at Robb's side during the whole battle. On the eastern ridge was Great Jon Umber, Mage Mormont, and Lord Jason Mallister. Leading the force towards the north we find Lord Rickard Karstark. The Blackfish would enter the battlefield from the south. There was not much tactics going on in the battle for Jaime Lannister, mainly because he didn't even know that he was entering a battle in the first place. Jaime and his men believed that they were in pursuit of a much smaller force and were completely unaware that they were being led into an ambush. Now let's see how the battle panned out. The attempt to lure Jaime Lannister had worked. Him and around 2,000 cavalry pursued the Blackfish and his men halfway up to Oldstones and into the Whispering Woods. They followed the Blackfish along the stream bed, and when the Lannister force was in perfect position, Mage Mormont let the war horn blow to sound the ambush. Once this call was given, Grey Wind howled, the Great Jon and Rickard Karstark blew their war horns, and the bowmen unleashed their arrows. Catelyn described this opening moments of the battles when she said, "Let out its breath all at once, and the bowmen Robb had hidden in the branches of the trees let their arrows fly, and the night erupted with the screams of horse and men." So Robb's strategy played out as planned, and it can be assumed that the Lannisters' lines would initially open from the confusion. At this point, Robb gave out a call when he screamed "Winterfell," and the cavalry began their charge. The cavalry came from all sides, and the much larger Stark force engaged the Lannisters. This quote from Catelyn describes what she witnessed atop the western ridge, listening to the battle. The valley rang with echoes. The crack of a broken lance, the clash of swords, the cries of Lannister and Winterfell, and Tully and Riverrun. When she realized there was no more to see, she closed her eyes and listened. The battle came alive around her. She heard hoofbeats, iron boots splashing in the water, the woody sound of swords on oaken shields and the scrape of steel against steel, the hiss of arrows, the thunder of drums, the terrified scream of 1,000 horses. Men shouted curses and begged for mercy, and they got it, or not, and lived, or died. The ambush had worked, and Robb's forces were defeating the Lannisters handily. When Jaime Lannister saw that his men were going to lose the battle, he decided to charge Robb Stark's army and try to cut the head off the snake, or in this case, wolf. Jaime was able to take out a few of Robb's guard, including Daeron Hornwood, Torrhen Karstark, and Eddard Karstark, but he ultimately was unable to kill Robb and was captured. At this point, the Lannisters were defeated and the battle was over. The Battle of the Whispering Woods was an outright victory for Robb Stark and his men. All the Lannisters had been either killed or captured. Among the captured were a few of the Westerland lords and members of its powerful houses. Most important of the captured men is Jaime Lannister, who was the leader of the siege at Riverrun. The capture gave Robb a great piece of leverage if they wished to negotiate. On top of the defeat of the Lannister force, the North suffered very few casualties. From the Battle of the Whispering Woods, Robb's army was able to move on to the remaining Lannister force that was laying siege to Riverrun. They would be able to do this while maintaining the secret that they were in the Riverlands, a key to the battle that will follow, the Battle of the Camps. In the Battle of the Whispering Woods, Jaime was able to kill Torrhen Karstark and Eddard Karstark, who were the two younger sons of Lord Rickard Karstark. This would drive him to anger and vengeance against the Lannisters, but mainly Jaime. Once Jaime was freed by Catelyn, Rickard Karstark was overtaken with anger and killed Willem Lannister and Tion Frey, two members of the Lannister blood that were captured at the Battle of the Whispering Woods. Robb Stark had Lord Karstark beheaded for murdering the captives, a move that lost him the Karstark army.
Kill me and be cursed. You are no king of mine.
This loss was a contributing factor to the Red Wedding. There was another effect of the Battle of the Whispering Woods that might have also led to the Red Wedding. After the battle, many of the important Westerland figures that were captured were sent to different houses in the North and in the Riverlands as prisoners. One of these captives was Lord Reginald Estrin, who was held captive at the Twins. It is possible that while he was at the Twins, Lord Estrin helped negotiate with Lord Frey for Tywin Lannister. If this is true, he would be a major contributor in the planning for the Red Wedding. While many of the events that led to the downfall of Robb Stark may have been put in action as a result of the Battle of the Whispering Woods, the battle itself was an overwhelming victory for the North and Riverland's force. We are able to learn a lot about the character of different people involved. The battle shows the tactical prowess of Robb Stark as a military commander. Many people who just watch the show have the opinion of Robb that he was a poor leader who ignored proper advice and often made bad choices. While I can understand this point of view, mainly because it stems from the show Robb's decision to marry Talisa, I personally disagree with it. I won't go into the book to show differences in terms of breaking the Frey marriage pact because that could be a whole separate video, but what can be said now is that Robb was a brilliant military tactician, which is showcased in his victory at the Battle of the Whispering Woods. Robb also knew how to genuinely connect to the men he led, which is a key quality to have as a commander and leader. Again, we see examples of this at the Whispering Woods. These are qualities that Robb learned from his father and helped make him into the leader he was. We can also learn a great deal about who Jaime Lannister was from the Whispering Woods. While the Blackfish was right when he said Jaime was restless and quick to anger, he also displayed his courage and ability to make intelligent decisions in the heat of battle. This is displayed when he decides to charge Robb Stark's position when the battle is falling apart for the Lannisters. Robb Stark was well guarded and surrounded by some of the best fighters, who would willingly throw themselves at anyone who was going after their liege lord. This would probably be the most dangerous place for Jaime to go, but he charges there regardless. This shows his courage, which is even said by one of the Northern Lords, Galbert Glover, after the battle. The act could also be seen as a pretty intelligent move. If Jaime was successful, he could have dealt a severe blow to the North's war effort, if not end it completely. It was tough odds for him to make it through to Robb, but with the battle going south so quickly, it might have been the best move he could make at that moment. This shows Jaime's ability to make a strong tactical move in the midst of chaos. Alright, so that's it for the analysis of the Battle of the Whispering Woods. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you liked it, please like the video or subscribe to the channel, or maybe give your opinion on Robb or Jaime as a commander. Also, comment and let me know what you thought about the video itself, and if you'd like to see more stuff like this. Any feedback's welcome. Alright guys, so see you later, and thanks for watching Analysis of Thrones.